We are going to do an intro to FECO. This is Jeremy Dedmon. Jeremy was one of the very first people to believe in my spirit, my mission, and some of this. He's kind of been a rock for me, and I'm really excited to have him here. This is kind of where I learned the bulk of my information in the beginning. I had done some research out on my own, but once I got into Jeremy's lab, I learned quite a bit. So, Jeremy, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. First off, I just want to say, wow, Chip Paul. Oh my goodness, right?
You're right.
That last event that he did just a minute ago, if you guys caught that, that was just it was like trying to drink from a fire hose. The man is just a wealth of information, and the preparedness and the amount of uh, thoroughness and dedication that he's had to providing this information can't be understated. I just wanted to tip my hat to Chip Paul in that regard. He did an amazing job with coming on here and providing a lot of valuable information about our endocannabinoid system, which is important to understand our endocannabinoid system in order to understand what we can do to influence it. And that comes into this next piece that we're going to start talking about, cannabis medicines, specifically FECO, as kind of the central powerhouse of cannabis medicines, being the all-encompassing essential oil of cannabis plant, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can make cannabis medicine, and most of them are basically, if you look at it from a chemistry standpoint, you're basically taking FECO and you are chemically breaking it into different parts to make different desirable products. If you're doing this with, rosin, then you're using different temperatures and pressures to elicit the right response from the medicine. If you're doing this with, live resin, you're doing this with different chemicals and temperatures and different solubilities. But all of this comes from the mother essence of the plant, which is full extract cannabis oil. So full extract cannabis oil has long been referred to as RSO. And I think, Jamie, you and I have had this conversation about 24 times. It's all semantics. We're all talking about the same thing, right? What we're talking about is the full essence of the plant in its chemical capacity. So we're not talking necessarily about the chlorophyll and the chloroplast and a lot of the fats and lipids and a lot of the things that you can get from cabbage or broccoli, or it's just a consequence of being a plant, which doesn't make them unhealthy in any regard. But when we're talking about cannabis medicines, we want to look at what makes this truly medicinal. And so the difference, in my opinion, between the two, RSO and FECO, is that RSO is kind of like the chainsaw approach to getting everything you can out of the plant by doing a hot soak and getting a lot of just anything that is in that plant, grabbing it, concentrating it, putting it into an oil and giving it to somebody. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but as our understanding of the plant evolves and as our understanding of chemistry and extractions and so on and so forth evolves, we want to start to get a better picture of what we want from this plant and how we can achieve that. And we can do that by using temperatures and solubilities, and we're not going to go into the chemistry of production here, but that is why FECO is so strong, is because we are able to be selective about pulling the medicinal compounds from the plant that has been so widely medicinally used for so long. As we are advancing in our medical understanding, we've come up with all these pharmaceutical remedies. We've come up with all of these, really advanced medical practices. And by and large, we've seen our naturopathic medicine, our holistic medicine stay the same. And what's happened there, it's an advancement in one field of study that hasn't been applied to another. And so I think that what we're doing here with the FECO playbook and with understanding the different reactions that we have with individual people's body chemistry and the products and medicines that we've made in a very specific way, gathering and collecting this data is going to allow us to get further along the path that our pharmaceutical companies have been blazing forever. That's not to say, not the bad parts of the pharmaceutical companies, but the good parts. So again, you got to give credit where it's due. FECO Playbook is such an amazing tool for gathering this data and weaponizing it in our advancement of our understanding of this medicine. And Jamie, you have just taken this Operation Zero initiative with the Operation 2.0 reboot and just ran with it in a way that I could not be more proud of. Just to have any amount of influence or impact on the beginning of an initiative that you guys have now taken and expanded beyond my wildest dreams is such an honor for me. So thank you very much for that. The FECO full extract cannabis oil, when we look at the plant, what we used to think is that the trichomes or the resin glands on the outside of the plant were a consequence of the plant producing medicine. But what we're understanding now is that those trichomes are actually glands that produce the medicine themselves. So just to kind of break this down in the simplest form possible, if you picture my arm like a cannabis leaf, then the hairs on it are the trichomes. This is where all of the terpenes are produced, all of the cannabinoids are produced. So if we're looking at my arm as a medicinal remedy, we are not going to want to just chop it off with a hatchet and throw it in a blender and drink it like a smoothie, right? We're going to want to take a scalpel or a razor and shave those medicinal compounds off of there. And that scalpel or the razor is our methodologies in extraction. And so it's really important that we're creating the cleanest and most potent medicines possible, leaving zero contaminants, zero byproducts in there, and really being intentional about the products that we're trying to produce in order to treat such a heavy thing. This is a very heavy task that everybody in this group has charged themselves with making headway on. And it's really something that makes you lay awake at night and wonder if you've done enough at the end of every day. I mean, it's something that I get asked a lot of times what got me involved in trying to treat, or trying to provide medicine for cancer patients. And I don't think that you always need some story of somebody close. Obviously, I've had people close to me that have been affected by cancer, just like most everybody has. But for me, it's just the general epiphany of the financial devastation that comes along with a cancer diagnosis, and trying to utilize that gravity of that realization to push us forward in the field of extractions and medicine has been kind of my goal for years. But I apologize, I'm not nearly as well prepared as your previous guests. I don't, that slideshow blew me away. I wish I had spent more time and created some graphics that I didn't have to hold up my arm to explain what I was talking about. But um,
I have a question, Jeremy.
yeah, shoot.
So when we're talking about FECO, there's, I guess let's try to paint the picture of how long it's actually been around, um, and the different solvents maybe that are used. Um, I think you had to, yeah.
I had to grab my
So,
notes.
oh, you're fine. Yeah. So, like, you know, most commonly, no, most everybody knows it as RSO. You said we've had this debate multiple times. People call RSO, and they don't understand that that's not where this started. FECO's been around for a long time.
Yeah. So FECO's been around a long time. I think Rick Simpson did a great thing for our industry and for our community. I definitely don't want to take anything away from his
Yeah.
contributions in using cannabis oil for the treatment of cancer. He was basically the one who busted that door down. Um, but to his methodology was just very crude. He used naphtha, which is a less than desirable solvent. Um, so solvents are basically the key behind FECO or RSO, because it is an oil-based compound, and in order to dissolve an oil base, you need a solvent. If you think about the way that if you have like the Goo Gone stuff under your sink that helps you scrub, marks off of your tile, that's because those marks are left by the rubber on your shoes, and that Goo Gone is a solvent. And the way that the chemistry works is it just breaks down that rubber and dissolves it into the solvent. Uh, but so when we look at an oil-based compound like cannabis oil, we're going to look for the solvents that break that down the best and then leave the picture in the cleanest way. That second part's really important because not all solvents are equal. Some of them are less efficient at breaking down cannabis oil. Some of them are very efficient at breaking down cannabis oil, but they don't leave the picture completely whenever it's time to purge and clean up the oil. Some of them is okay if they don't leave the picture completely, like food grade ethanol, for example, which a lot of FECO is made with food grade ethanol. And if you just leave it in suspension, you have an old school tincture. That's really not going to hurt a lot of people as long as it's not denatured and doesn't have heptane or something nasty in it. It's not going to hurt a lot of people to use a tincture that still has ethanol in suspension, but ethanol is not necessarily the most efficient solvent that we can use to produce FECO. It is one of the least harmful and provides a margin of safety in the end product. When you're dealing with somebody with a compromised system like a cancer patient, that is incredibly important. Whenever I was in business, I made FECO with butane extraction. However, my lab was really set up to double down on ensuring that there was absolutely zero residual butane at the end of that. I would not recommend that everybody go out and make FECO with butane extraction. I certainly wouldn't recommend that for an at-home method or anybody without, a full chemistry understanding and an adequate lab. But that's kind of where it came from RSO into the realm of trying to become more efficient and create cleaner medicines. It's been around for, like you said, it's been around for centuries.
Yeah.
And it was all about taking a solvent and using it to draw out those oil-based compounds, because that's what solvents are good at.
I think centuries ago they used to use vegetable oil.
Yeah, well, vegetable oil is, Chip was talking about triglycerides and fats. Fats and oils are very similar also. They're very soluble, co-soluble compounds, and they mix well together. That's why a lot of tinctures are made with medium chain triglycerides or MCT oil, is because it just holds those oils, those cannabis oils in suspension so well. And a lot of FECO tinctures have been made with fats as well. It's very bioavailable to your body that in that way. We're trying to, not only maximize the potency, it does us no good to maximize the potency of the oil if we're not maximizing the absorption, right?
Yep.
Then we're just spinning our wheels. So,
So
yeah,
for
using,
somebody who's just learning about what FECO is and what it can do for cancer cells, can you explain a little bit on that? Just what it actually does to the cancer cells?
yeah. So it's a state called apoptosis or programmed cell death. The THC rich environment um, creates an environment where those cancer cells will actually turn on themselves for food source and self-destruct in a way. And I think that, just to be honest, I think that Chip would be a much better person to speak on that. Um, but yeah, the goal with FECO in cancer treatment is to walk the line between maximum saturation of THC in your system and comfortability. Because we all know that there's a line that you can cross where that saturation of THC becomes incredibly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Um, some people are, 2,000 milligrams. They can't do any more than 2,000 milligrams. I can't do any more than 30. Everybody's different. Everybody's different. If I eat 30 milligrams in public, I'm like trying to go home.
I think
Uh,
it's also important, since you're bringing this up, I think it's also important to bring up that at no point in time would we recommend taking a full gram to start with.
oh
Um,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
please do
That is
not buy a
really
gram
important.
and start a full gram.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the worst things that I've ever seen in this treatment is people who are told to go out and do a gram a day, and they go out and they buy their first gram and they put it on a cracker and they eat it, and they have one of the worst experiences of their life, and they can't bring themselves to try cannabis medicines ever again. They say, this is ridiculous. I should have never done this. And for me, that's just a tragedy. That's nothing short of a
Yes.
tragedy, because they were led wrong by somebody who should have known better.
Yeah,
Uh,
so with that, you start off very small, like a very small amount, and then you titrate over a couple of days into an increasing amount into to what your body can handle. Not There is the Rick Simpson dosing method out there that a lot of people follow, but that doesn't mean that everybody's body can follow that. So
yeah, I
some
mean,
people can only continue to take a little bit. Some people have to try a different method.
it's good to have a guideline, though. I mean, the Rick Simpson dosing method is a good general understanding of how this half a grain of rice to a grain of rice to a grain and a half of rice, and you build yourself up. And it's good to have a guideline that kind of shows you how to do that. But honestly, the main idea is just to push the envelope as far as you're comfortable pushing it in terms of THC saturation. And THC is not the only hero in this story. There's a ton of minor cannabinoids, and that's why
Yes.
full extract cannabis oil is more effective than, say, an isolate or a distillate, which would be either just THC or primarily THC. Full
Yes.
extract cannabis oil, one of the main things that I want to express about it is that it is full of minor cannabinoids. We have CBD, CBG, CBN, CBC, THCV. We have all of these minor cannabinoids that work together and form this entourage effect of we really still don't understand the synergy that they have and why they're so effective in conjunction with each other. But but we definitely do know enough now to know that it is important to get those minor cannabinoids.
Yes.
So whenever you're looking at a product, whenever you're in the market for FECO, you definitely want to look at the test results, look at the label. Any proper FECO ought to be labeled with minor cannabinoids. That's my opinion. And if you look at the label and it shows minor cannabinoids, then you at least know that you have a company that cares what's in there and is not just trying to boast a high THC content. You can also ask for the test results, review the test results. You know, if you don't understand how to read test results, you can probably get a hold of just about anyone on this panel list today.
Yes.
And I think anybody would be more than happy to take the time to review a COA with you, or a certificate of analysis, to tell you what you're looking at. But we want to make sure that there's more than just THC in this medicine, because THC is great, but and it is the cancer-fighting cannabinoid. Don't get me wrong, but it is just bolstered when it's in conjunction with all those minors that I just discussed.
So we have a question from the audience. What is a better solvent than ethanol as far as cleaner?
Oh, that's difficult. I mean, ethanol is the most widely used because it is a great solvent. I'm going to get torches and pitchforks if I talk about butane here as being a more efficient solvent. It's definitely more selective in terms of terpenes and cannabinoids, and it reaches a deeper, broader spectrum of the terpene profile of the plant and of the cannabinoid profile of the plant, but it is not cleaner. In terms of if there is residuals, they are more harmful. The if is a very big, it's a very big if. If there's residuals, they are more harmful to your body. But it is more effective at extracting that broad range of cannabinoids and terpenes. Ethanol is very effective. Don't get me wrong. I'm not dissing ethanol extraction. It is the staple of FECO production, and I think that it should continue because it is fairly safe. Water extraction is something that is praised by a lot of people. A lot of people like hash rosin. A lot of people like, water extracted products. It does not reach that same spectrum of cannabinoids and terpenes, and it is not as safe as people think either. There's a lot of possibility for mold contamination, cross contamination of other things that will actually travel in water that will not travel in other solvents. So it's just bear that in mind, that it's not as safe as everybody likes to say that it is, and it's nowhere near as efficient when we're talking about producing medicine. Does it make a better smoke whenever you're talking about hash? Absolutely, but we're talking about medicine here, and we're talking about FECO, and I think ethanol is the hero. Yeah.
I think that is all of the questions. So we're going to go ahead and end this session and jump over to our 10 o'clock session of the history and relaunch of Operation Zero